Here you go, Medea, this bit is just for you. You wanted to see the dogs, and here they are, sitting by the fire. Nice and warm on a cool winter's day. And Ty's also enjoying the warm. And so is Tubby. Meanwhile, Grumpy Bum's over here. Hey, Mr. Grumps. So as you can see there, I've snuck plants in everywhere I can. Right, I won't actually be making any media because I still have some leftovers that's already made up, but I will show you what I would do anyway. I keep my media in the freezer. It is media that I bought from Australia from proper orchid growers, and you have to bear with me because I am doing this with one hand, so it is quite awkward. It just takes a little bit longer than usual, but we'll get there. Hang on, like that. Cool, so this is the parcel that I received. It was quite expensive, 200, I can't even read that because it's all blurry, $214 New Zealand. But I did get quite a lot of media because I'm planning on doing a lot of flasking. So I got different media for, some's for terrestrial orchids, some's for low needing orchids, others for orchids that need a lot of support. You probably can't even read that. I'll take some photos and then you'll be able to read it properly, and I'll just put them in like a slideshow in the video. But because this is frozen, what I would do is I would leave it out at room temperature, and I'd let it come up to room temperature before I open the Ziploc bag. I did hope to have some bags like this so that I could show you how I'd preserve seed as well for gel, but unfortunately I don't have any small bags. But basically what I would do is I would put them in a wee bag like that and just pop them in the freezer. Sometimes I'll double bag as well just to be safe, just in case one of the bags does have a break in the seal. And then basically it would store for quite a few years without a problem. And then when you want to use them, you just take them out of the freezer, let them sit at room temperature until they're warmed up, and open the bag. That way no moisture will get vacuumed into the bag with the temperature differential, or difference between temperatures, which will cause vapour to draw into the bag and then condense and turn into moisture, and then your seed will be pretty screwed. So if you do this and you take out your seed of the freezer and you use some but want to put it back in the freezer again, that is absolutely fine. No problem at all. Just make sure you don't leave it out of the freezer for too long. But like I said, I'm not able to do that because I don't have any small bags. But what I will be doing is I am sending some seeds overseas. Hopefully they arrive okay without being destroyed on arrival, like they often will be. But yeah, I'm going to try and send some to you guys anyway, anyone that's interested. But yeah, like I said, they might get destroyed, but hey, you can only but try these things and see what happens. So hopefully they arrive okay. That's right, another question I was asked is how I measure out my media. Basically, one bag here creates 1 litre of media. On your flasks, they will always have how many mils. So basically what you do is you work out how full you're going to want your flask, and then divide the weight of the bag. It works out to be round about a flat teaspoon per flask. Just by the way, this is the flask that I filmed in my last video. There's still no sign of life in here, but these particular seeds are from a species of orchid that's native to New Zealand, which take about 50 years to get to a maturing flowering size. So I'm unlikely to ever see these flower in my lifetime, but I can reintroduce them into the wild where they came from, where their natural population is diminishing. That's kind of what I'm hoping to do, is, you know, breed a lot of the orchids from the wild that are no longer around and keep their populations going. That's what I really hope to do anyway, but we'll see what happens. Alright, so because I'm not actually going to be making these flasks up from scratch, because I've already pre-made some, I'll just show you here. This is my pressure cooker. So what I would do is I would get my flasks and I would fill them up to the level that I wanted with reverse osmosis water. Either that or use bottled water, just to make sure that the water's pure and there's no other trace elements of anything in there. Then some people will add banana pulp or potato pulp, but I don't bother with that unless I'm using something like Phalaenopsis fragrantipedium or Papapedulum seeds, just because they require a few slightly different things than most of the others. Once I've done that, I would either stick a bung in the lid of the flask, either that or just cover it with tin foil just to make sure it's sealed. The reason for this is that once you've got your flasks and you've put them in and you've sterilised them in the pressure cooker, once that's opened, bacteria will come in. So you just need to make sure that it's completely sealed for the transition into your nicely homemade budget glove box. Once they're in there and everything's sterile, you can take the lids off once it's sealed, but you wouldn't want to do it unless it's sterile. Once one little tiny piece of bacteria or fungus or anything gets inside there, it's game over. As you can see, this is a really budgetly made. It's basically a fish tank with perspex window with holes cut out where I've just budgetly taped in gloves. But hey, it does what I need. I can't complain with that. And then underneath here I have my extensive collection of orchid books. That's only half of them, by the way. I have a heck of a lot more. And then of course bonsai, quantum mechanics, gardening, law books, all sorts of interesting stuff. And then of course there's more underneath. But hey, literature is always good, you can never have too much. Alright, so there's my seed pod. As you can see, it's burst open pretty nicely. So all of this, don't know how well you can see that. That's all seed bursting out, and that's all seed there. It is so super fine. You can just tap it. Look at all of that seed. Because it's not sterile, I'm not too worried about using my hands at all. There's still some left in there, but not enough to really worry about too much. And you can see all these weird little looking lumps of fibre. They need to be removed. Of course, I mean, if you really wanted to, you could use some sort of tool, some sort of tweezers or pliers or something with needle nose on them to remove all of this fluff and dander from the seed itself. But because I have so much seed, I'm not really that worried. What I'm doing here is just trying to shake off any extra bits. Don't know how well you can see the fluff. Now it doesn't really look like that much, but in here there will be several million seeds easily. I remember when I first heard about orchid seeds needing to be grown in agar media rather than normal, I was always really confused by this and how that would actually work, but once you see how small these seeds actually are, you can understand how they have no food source available to them like a normal seed would, which is why it needs the sterile agar. Agar, I don't know if you remember in science class at school, you'd grow bacteria on agar because it's the perfect host. It's nice and it's a rich food source, and especially once you add all the minerals into it that you do when you're flasking orchid seeds. So basically, yeah, you need to make sure that everything is completely sterile or you're just wasting your time really. So to sterile this seed, what I will do is, I'm not going to use all of it because I am sending some to some friends. What I'll do is I have a little test tube with a little cap on the end, and I fill that up with a 50-50 mix of bleach and water, and then I add a drip of nice natural biodegradable dishwashing liquid. The reason for this is that the dishwashing liquid contains a chemical in there which basically what it does is it coats the surface of everything. It's called a wetting agent, and that will just mean that every fine little seed will get a nice coating of bleach. Otherwise you'll find that because the seed's so small that there's air bubbles all over them and that they don't actually get sterilised properly. So I will fill the test tube and I will shake it for about 10 minutes. I won't film all of that because that's just boring watching me shake a test tube for 10 minutes. But yeah, I'll try and film as much of it as I can where I'm able to, because I'm doing this on my cell phone. It does mean that I either have to sit somewhere where you can't see everything, or I have to hold it in one hand, and that's completely ridiculously hard to do when you're trying to do stuff so delicately. So yeah, I'll film as much as I can and we'll see where we get anyway. But that is my seed ready for action. Alright, well I'm nearly ready to go here. Got my glove box all ready to go. Got my flasks in there. Excuse the reflection, it gets pretty dirty because of the bleach drying out all the time between every flasking. You might not be able to see because of the reflection, because I put a light here so that I can see what I'm doing better, and so that you guys can see what I'm doing better. But in that corner is some working tools, spray bottle with my bleach mix, and some alcohol disinfectant wipes, and of course a light so I can see what I'm doing. And my seed, and my little test tube, which I still need to clean, but we will get that sorted and I'll get the seed happening, and then my little funnel so that I can strain the seed off. Alright, well it was actually too hard to try and film putting the seed into the test tube and filling the test tube and adding the dishwashing liquid with one hand, so I've had to do it myself. But that's it there altogether. This is the leftover seed, which half is for Jael and the other half is for another friend who's interested over in Spain. So hopefully they get there okay. But anyway, what I am going to do now is put the test tube lid on and shake it. I'm not going to film that, and I'm not going to attempt to put the lid on with one hand either, because if I spill this I'm going to be very upset. So I will do that and I'll shake it for a few minutes and then I will see where we're at. Alright, well it's pretty much time to go now. Seeds have been shaken, everything's ready, it's all in the box. The last thing to do is open the box. Bleach spray. Oh, there we go. There, bleach spray. Bottle's a bit dodgy. Spray everything out. Seed. Spray. Pop it in. Done. Then what we do is we shut the box up. One-handed styles, very awkward. I just use tape to seal it. Now what I'm going to do is with my tape is I'm going to seal all across the top and down the sides. Bottom's already done. So I'm going to put this down and do that quickly. Alright, so now everything is in the flask, so it's time to begin work. So I stick my hands into my little glove holes. Hopefully everything's looking okay for you guys out there. Seed in the tube. Just give it one last wee shake just to make sure that it's all dispersed, because it does have a tendency to clump down the bottom, which it is doing currently. And then I have my wee coffee filter here, which of course has been sprayed down with isopropyl alcohol. 100% too. I was lucky enough to be able to buy that without a chemical license. So I've just taken the cap off and I just carefully pour, not too much, a little bit more. You're always going to end up with some residual seed in the tube, but hey, you can't get them all. But like I said, there's already going to be thousands upon thousands upon thousands in there. Now this is the hard part. Obviously there's much better ways of doing this, but I'd like to do it cheap, because I'm a cheap ass. So then I just carefully lift the filter up, letting the media drain through. Nice and foamy because of the dishwashing liquid, but that's fine, that goes away. You just have to wait for that to drain off. Shouldn't take too long, I say hopefully. It does actually seem to be taking longer than I thought, so bear with me for a minute. Maybe I'll just edit this bit to make it a bit shorter. But we are getting there. Slowly but surely. Just rubbing it against the edge of the cylinder to try and hurry it up a little bit. Well, that's my theory. Kind of working. Yeah, that'll do. Pop that down, push that to the side. Alright, so flask number 1. So when I pressure cook these, like I said, I covered the lids with tin foil. I'll just screw it up to make it smaller to get it out of the way, because my workspace is pretty small. There we go. Now reaching the corner here that you can't quite see. No, not that one. Even I can't see very well. Righty ho. So I have a pair of fine tip there. So now what I'm going to do is just try and get some seed. Don't know if you can see that in there or not, but there is quite a bit there. And I just dropped it on the side of the flask, which isn't too good. I don't know if you can see, just there. So what I'll do is carefully with my little tool, scrape it down the side. There we go, now it's in the middle. Then what I do is I just carefully sort of spread it around a little bit so it's not all in one clump. And we'll just get a bit more. Put it over the other side. And a little bit more. There we go, that's one done. Then also what I didn't show you before, because I couldn't use both hands as well, is with my bung lids, I basically just used alcohol wipes and wiped them down before I put them into the container. So we will just pop that in there, give it a good push down. I'm not pushing it all the way in, just a good seal, because what I'll do after is when I open my little glove box here is I'm going to spray around the top with my bleach mix just to make sure that it is completely sterile again, and then push it down completely. So that's one done, and then very awkwardly pull this one out and push that one down. I seriously need to make a bigger workspace than this silly little tank, but hey, it does what I need it to, that's the main thing. Just going to set these down for a second here. Again, screw that up and get it out of the way. I think this one I actually used 3 lids on. Go. Cool. So next flask, same deal again. Scrape up some seed. Drop it in there. A bit more. Drop it in there. It looks like this flask had a bit too much water and not quite enough media. So I might just be able to get away with swirling it. No, maybe not. Spread this around a wee bit. Hopefully you guys can see this well enough to see what I'm actually doing. You probably can't see the smearing of the seed because, like I said, it's so small and so fine, but at least you get the idea of what's going on here. Now, you don't need to make sure that it covers every surface, but obviously the more spread out the better. Let's see if you can see it in there. Hang on, which way are we? Oh, this is really weird. There you go. You can see it doesn't quite go to all the edges, but it has a nice coverage. So again, get my bung, stick it in, push it down just nice and lightly. Enough to seal it but not have it push right in, basically, is what you're looking for. Then we have lucky last. This one I actually put in the pressure cooker with the bung in. Not always the best idea because with heat contraction and restriction, sometimes it's really hard to get the bung back out again, which, yes, it sure is. Hopefully it will come out. I thought I learnt my lesson with doing this, but obviously not. Hopefully maybe this time now I have. Alright, how are we going to do this? And of course with everything being wet with bleach, it is all slippery too. Fantastic. somehow I have a feeling I'm not actually going to be able to get into this one. No, that's stuck in there good. Right, so that's 2 anyway. So that's that side of things done. So now I'll pull my hands out. Well, actually no, I'm not going to, because I still have heaps of seed there. So I'm actually going to put my hand back in again. Little finger, there we go. So I'm just going to go back into the 2 that I just did. Just because I don't want to waste seed. As my grandmother would have said, waste not, want not. Or every mickle makes a muckle, which never made sense to me, because what the heck is a mickle and what the hell is a muckle? But anyway, that's a good saying, so I'll still use it. It was actually my grandma who got me into plants in general. My first memory would have been 5 years old, out with grandma collecting seeds, and something inside me has not ever changed. I'll still see seed pods around the place and I'll fill up little containers with them, just a random mixture of this and that, and just plant them out wherever, sometimes just in public places, because no one can ever have too many flowers, especially if they're orchids, as we all know. Right, I'm just trying to get up the last of the seed without scratching up the paper. There's always going to be seed left over though, you can never get every last one, but you can get as much as you can anyway. The trouble is if I scratch that up anymore, I'm just going to end up with paper files, which I don't need. So again, just spread that out. Tools clean, perfect. Bung back in. Right, okay, now this time, hands out. One hand. 2 hand. So, what I do now, I get my bleach spray, and my container is all sealed up, so I carefully, with my one hand, awkwardly, how the heck am I going to do this with one hand? Okay, hang on a second guys, just going to put that down. It appears I taped this up pretty well. You can never be too safe though. Music playing in the background too, by the way, if you do like it, is the dub side of the moon. So it is a reggae remix album of Dark Side of the Moon, which I really do quite like. It's quite different, but they've made it really well. Okay, now we're in. So we open sesame. Get my spray bottle. Good wee spray. Turn them around. If you get too much bleach on your hands, it gets pretty nasty. Your hands go all crusty and dry. There we go. So that's them done. They're all frothy from the bleach. Hold them out, put them up top. Now I'm not going to be able to do this with one hand again. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to push the lids down properly. Pop that back down. That's one in. And that's two in. And there we go. I do apologise for this being very shaky. For some reason this camera's really shit and everything just shakes. Okay, so what am I going to do? I need to dry my hands off. Hang on a second, guys. Okay, so I was asked regarding when plants in flasks, how long they can stay in flasks. When they're this size and they've just been sown, basically what you're looking for is once the plants start to get so big that they're starting to run out of space, what you will do then is you'll do what's called replating, which is when you prepare some new flasks and then take your original flask, open it up and sort of spread them out. When you're doing this, again, you will be using some wee small fine tip pliers like these and pinching out very carefully just the baby plants and popping them into the new flasks. Sometimes what people will do is they'll actually put little rubber tips on the end of the pliers. I'm calling them pliers, they're so not pliers, they're tweezers. I don't know why. But that way with the rubber on the ends they'll be nice and soft and you're not going to damage any delicate plants. I do also have some much finer needle ones. These aren't really made to be soaked in pure ethanol alcohol. All of this is starting to flake off. Might as well just take it off anyway, doesn't really matter. And I do also have the angled ones, which are finer again. I mean, just for a comparison. Just depending on the size that you're working with. And then with replating again, so you're spreading them out. Again, they're fine without actually having to have any oxygen at this age. Once your plants begin to get bigger, if you still want to keep them in flask until they're up to about a flowering size, you can get these bungs which have got a hole in the middle, which you can fit either a piece of pipe into, and then you basically just use cotton wool and stuff the hole. That way there is an oxygen exchange, but there's no chance of any fungus, bacteria or any pathogens getting through the cotton wool. I was asked what sort of thickness of cotton wool. Just basically as much as you can squeeze in as possible. There's no sort of rule about having to have so much in there or anything. You're just looking at having something that's going to hold nice and tight so that no small particles can fit through. Sometimes what I'll actually do is I'll use one of my little coffee filters as well. They're only small coffee filters. I just bought a pack of 100 for only a couple of dollars. So you can actually cover it with that and then the cotton wool and then another layer of that as well. Just as long as everything's sealed up is really what you're looking for. What else was I asked? I can't actually remember what else I was asked, but feel free to ask anything. I'm more than happy to help you guys wherever I can. You know, I'm still pretty new to flasking, but we've all got to start somewhere, and if I can assist you guys, if you're wanting to start flasking at all, then why not? You know, the more experience people have, the better, and if we can all work in together, then we can keep the hobby alive, and we can stop species from dying out. That's sort of what it's all about, really. Well, that and beautiful flowers. Which, speaking of which, blur, 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 as we go over here. I have a nice, you can't even really see very well, a new dendrobium opening, and a few more buds on the way. This was the side of what I was filming the other day in my accent tag that I didn't get to show you, which is, where are we? Some of the dancing dolls mounted on a piece of wood there. Sherry baby. What have we got here? A few more wee dendrobiums. There's a wee oncidium in here. What else have we got? There's a little Vanda Mini ACSF cherry blossom. My bigger Vandas are up top here. Again, it's a really crappy day outside, it's raining and horrible, so there's not much light coming in the window, so you can't even really see the Vandas, but there's 3 of them there. They're all blues and purples. I might be able to sneak in and show you. Little wee tags here. Oh, I so love my Vandas, they're awesome. What else? I've got a wee Ingracum. More dendrobiums. Up top, actually, I'll show you this because this is pretty cool. I've just got a nice big slab of pine. I've just put 2 little wee dendrobiums on it. They should take a hold before too long. Cattleyas. Got a Restrepo here, which has been blooming pretty much non-stop, mounted on a nice piece of punga. I don't know if you guys would call it punga, you might call it tree fern, I'm not too sure. And got another wee dendrobium mounted on another wee piece of punga. I bought this one just recently, I can't actually remember what it's called off the top of my head, but it is in spike, so that's pretty cool. I think, oh yeah, and the sarcochilus underneath here I didn't get to show you guys. It's pretty hard to try and film in here, but there's 4 sarcochilus varieties down here. These here are my cochleatas that I deflasked recently. Well, it's half of them anyway, the other half are in a different grow space. Dracula, Sodoenum, the very, very sweet, cute Dridella. I think I posted some pictures of this for you guys a wee while back. As you can see with my finger here, it is a tiny plant and the flowers are even smaller and they are so cute. I've got some spikes over here too, and then the mounted upside down Phalaenopsis. There's a wee spike there growing on that. I mount them upside down because I find it so much better, because that way you can water them as much as you like and not worry about crown rot, which is a huge advantage, especially here in New Zealand where the humidity does get quite high and the temperatures get quite cool. Draculas, Phalaenopsis, Masdevallias, Sherry baby, more Phalaenopsis, Ingracum, Frangipanis, Cattleyas, Maxillarias, Pathopedulums, speaking of which, quite excited about this one. Nice big bud here. Should open in another week or 2. So yeah, there you go. There's quite a lot crammed in, but that seems to be doing quite well really. It's funny to think that only, what, a year and a half ago I had 4 plants in here. The funny thing about addiction is once you start you can't stop. It just seems to be the way it goes. You have to excuse the rustling behind me because I have my head stuck in behind the plastic wrap. But I couldn't be bothered sticking it up because I showed you in the other video that we got these little Velcro dots. So I can just stick it up on itself, which is really nice and easy. Fogger looks like it's ran out of water, so I will top that up quickly. I guess that's the good thing about being in the kitchen, is I have access to water right by me. And also the good thing about being in New Zealand is that we have some of the most pure water in the world. There we go, we're away. Fantastic. I love these foggers, they're so cool, I can just watch them for hours. Now, I did tell the story about when I first got it, how I did try and inhale it just to see what happened, and yes, it's a very strange feeling. I wouldn't really recommend it, but you got to try these things at least once, just because otherwise you just never know. So, what should I do? Maybe I'll just go and try and do a bit of a panoramic shot across. Probably terribly shaky and horrible to try and view, because this camera is, like I said, terrible. But yeah, this space is about 2 meters across and about 1 meter deep. I'm not too sure about the height, but I have mounted as much as I can. I've just sort of screwed in hooks and hang things where I can. And I did make a video about this one a while back when I did this mount. These two Phalaenopsis. It might look a bit weird because of the light spectrum of my LED lighting. These lights are awesome. I can't rate them highly enough. I was concerned about using LED, whether it would have enough light output, but I've never looked back. Also pretty cool as you could just use the blue light, which looks funky as. So yeah, thoroughly impressed by that grow light. It is a proper LED grow light for aquariums. Because I work in a pet store, I get my staff discount. So hey, why not? And then behind me, the lighting in here is pretty terrible. But these are just ones that I haven't quite found a space for yet. And yes, there are quite a few. So I have my species. What was this? This was a... oh man, my brain's gone dead and I cannot remember. Tracianum, there you go. Hang on, let me just pull this shelf out of the way. So we have our cute, beautiful little dwarf Phalaenopsis. This thing is tiny, but it is gorgeous. I'm going to be doing a few experiments on these guys. I have the old flower spikes, which I'm going to try and dissect sections where the nodes are and try and propagate them, which is the same with the next one over as well. These are just two little hybrid variety pink types. Then we have this beautiful wee Dendrobium nobile type, which is overshadowed by a glorious Phalaenopsis. And then what's next to that? There's just my Hoya. Then we go down a level. What have we got down here? Bifrenia and a Dendroculum. And my cute as little wee guy. This is a Paphopedilum purpureum. These are pretty cool because what will happen is as this flower starts to die, you can see that it's followed off by another one, which will then flower, and then when that dies, followed off by another one, and when that dies, followed off by another one. And then a couple of other wee Dendrobiums. Down a level, not orchid, African violet. What was this guy? This guy I actually won, what was it, a followed, no I can't actually remember, sorry guys. And, oh that does have a label, which I don't really want to try and pronounce. Another Bifrenia, and then the sarcochilus. This is actually the one that was the parent of the seeds that were just flasked. That was its spike there. These guys are really cool. They're from the Vanda family, but they're a dwarf variety. They come under their own classification. They're not called Vanda, even though they actually are, but that's the way they work. So, that's my kitchen. Who doesn't want to cook tea? Or who spends hours cooking tea when they don't need to? I do.